Hi, I'm James with British Customs. Today we're going to install this tracker bar on this 2023 Speedmaster. And this bar is a nice simple install because we don't have to change any brake lines, any cables, no wiring. It's all going to bolt right on, aside from having to drill the locations for our switch housings. So let's have at it. So in case you're wondering what the difference is between these bars, because if you looked at it replaced, you might not even realize it, but the angle that this put your hands at is completely different. So it's going to feel a little bit wider, even though it's still the same, but it's just putting you out there, giving you a little more leverage, and might be more comfortable for some people, and maybe the stock is more comfortable for others, but this way you see. So we're going to start by taking our controls off here, using your 5mm Allen. Take this clamp completely off. Then we have our T20s on the back here. Undo these. So again, with our 5mm Allen. And our T20 Torx bit. So there's two ways you can do this. You could undo the clamp here and pull the bar out that way, and you'd have to pull this end off when you do that too. The other way, which makes things a little bit easier to handle, is to undo these two screws in here. It's a T20 Torx bit. And that way you don't have the weight of this thing all the time on here. Now you got to take this little bar end off here. It's a 4mm Allen. You can slide that grip off. So now I'm going to take the grip off. There's a little piece of plastic in here that sometimes the grip will slide right over it, and other times this can start grabbing on the rubber inside and make it real hard to get off. So first we're going to push the grip up this way, pull that piece of plastic out, and then pull the grip off. So that's what we're looking to get out. So now we can take the handlebar clamp off using our 6mm Allen. Just support the bars so that they don't fall down and hit something. The reason why I did these by hand before I used the gun was because these are probably really tight, and the gun, which may break it, but you have to hold it for quite a while to get it to do it. Just easier to crack it by hand, and then just for speed of getting it out, I'm using the gun. Not really using the gun to loosen that initial torque that's on there. So if you're nervous about eyeballing the bars to make sure that they're set centered, this is one way you can do this. Lay your bars out on a flat table here, measure from corner to corner here, put a piece of tape, and you get a square, and now we just figure out where our center is. We measure 33 1/4 to the center, so that's going to be 16 5/8 would be half of that. So we're going to mark that way. And then I'll just flip it over. Go back to 16 5/8 again. Because I'm using a marker, the line's fat, so now I have a better center line there. And now we'll go measure the distance between the center on the risers, and we'll make sure this is centered in there. Okay, so now I just want to measure what's the center of our risers. We're at 3 inches on the center there. So that means we want 1.5 inches. And if you notice, when you measure from the back here, it's actually at 3 1/16. So I'm just going to try and keep it in the middle of that 16th mark there. And that should keep us on the center. Now, one thing you might want to check beforehand is just lay it in there. If you can't get your throttle sensor onto the bar while it's like this, then you need to put it on and then find your center. But with this bar right now, it's reaching. So I can now put my clamp on there, then put that on and flip the bar up, and it'll hold it on place. So here's the fun part. So now maybe we want to just put a piece of tape over here so we can mark it, or even with a marker, just enough that we can see it. I'll use a piece of tape just for the video. So now I can take this center piece off. I can put that on right up to the blue tape. Put our clamp on. With our 6mm Allen. We don't want to crank it down yet. Just want to make it snug enough that it'll hold the bar in position. So one of the important things about measuring out your bar exactly where you want it before you even put it in the clamp, and then when you put it in there, keeping it in the same position all the time, is this black finish. If you're off a little bit and you tighten this clamp down and then you spin this, you're going to be leaving marks all over this. And then if you try to find your center after that and it sticks out here, you're going to see that, and there's not much you can do at that point. So you really want to try and get it right the first time. Keep it all in the same spot. So as long as I keep this piece of tape here, I know when I'm turning it up that I'm staying where I want to be. So we put our throttle sensor on. Turn the bar up, nice and easy. Get her about where we want to end up. See, and now that doesn't come off. If you're unsure of where to position these bars, a really good starting point is to try and make this tube here so it goes in line with the forks at the same angle. And then these should be kind of close to level with the floor, you know, so they may be down just a little bit and this angle might be a little bit off, but that's a real good starting point, and then the rest you'll figure out after you sit on the bike and find what's comfortable. So now we want to tighten these bolts down. Go to 24 Newton meters. I'm going to start with the top portion of the clamp. And go to the bottom. Next thing we have to do is drill our locating hole, which keeps our controls in position where they're at. Once you clamp it down, there's a little divot that sticks in that hole and keeps them from moving. So if you were to measure from the end of the bar to that hole, we're about just over 8.5 inches there. Almost 8 3/4 if you measure to this outer portion here. But in our scenario here, we're not going to leave this end here because we got a hollow bar at the end here. So if we wanted to do bar and mirrors, we have an adapter that can fit in there. So we don't need to have this extra space here. And we're actually going to be leaving the stock mirrors on anyway. So we want to end it where the grip actually ends, which measures out at about 1/8 and 1/16 of an inch to the end there. So we're going to put a piece of tape about 8 inches in here because that's where we need to make our mark. So we'll measure 8. I'm going to put our tape in the center at that 8. So it falls right there. Wrap that around. All right, before we screw this on, we want to have our grip in place. So there's really only one way it can go in, where this piece fits into a little slot right on the side there. So we're going to do that. We can bring this up. This right here is the nub that we're trying to drill the hole for. This is our alignment nub. It sticks out a little further than here. So we need to have a hole that falls into before we can actually tighten the clamp down. And that keeps it from ever moving on you while you're riding the bike. So what we're going to do here is put some black marker on there. Get our grip aligned in our throttle sensor. Get our clamp. 5mm Allen. You just want to get the thread started. Don't tighten it yet. We want to get the grip right about where we want it, right there. You don't want to make this so tight that you don't break something. You just want to make it tight enough that we can leave a mark on the tape where we want to drill. Right there. I can't move it. It's probably made a good mark, so let's check it out and see. Here's the mark that we made. You can see the little indent in the tape. It's made a nice black mark. So that's where we're going to drill our hole. But, you know, we've done this so many times, we kind of know exactly where things are going to end up. So we can kind of guess at it and we get super close. And the hole is big enough that it allows a tiny bit of movement. But you really want to make sure that it's where you want it before you drill this hole. You don't want to have to oblong the hole or drill another hole somewhere. So you're best to, once you have it snug down, sit on the bike, see if it feels comfortable where you're at. Make sure the bars are at the angle you want. Make sure the grip is at, the lever is at the angle you want. And then, you know, if you have to get another piece of tape and mark it again, then you keep doing that and only drill once. That's what you're trying to do, because you don't want to make Swiss cheese out of this and then the bar's worthless. To drill this hole, LSL makes a jig that goes on here. It's got a little drill bushing that you can line up on there. They make one for 7/8 bars and one for 1-inch bars. So if you're going to get one, make sure that you get the appropriate one for your bar. You can freehand it if you want, but there's no guarantees with that. This is going to hold you right in place and you really can't mess it up. So for this one, we want the 1 inch. So we're going to put the clamp on. Just snug in the beginning. And then we're going to look through the hole and find our mark. Line it up and tighten it down. So there's our mark right there. So I'm going to come over. And I can see it in the hole there. And we'll tighten it down. And you want to make sure you make this good and tight because you don't want it moving once you stick the drill bit in. Okay. All right, so this uses a number 9 drill bit for a perfect fit. Otherwise, if you don't have a 9, just find one that's the biggest one you can fit in there without it actually cutting on the drill bushing itself. There we go. So now we can remove the jig. And this here is just a pilot hole. We're going to open that hole up a little bit bigger. And the bigger hole size that we want is actually an F drill bit, or the next closest size would be a 1/4 inch drill bit. Peel the tape off. Give it a quick test fit. So you can see you do have a little bit of movement there. So you want to get it super close, and then that'll let you fine tune it once you're done. So now we know that that's good. We want to screw our sensor in. So make sure your sensor is properly seated on the throttle tube. It helps just rest your stomach against here. It'll keep it from falling off and gives you kind of an extra hand. And drop your screws in there. And then we can bring up the master cylinder. And with our T20, start screwing those in. Before you make those totally tight, you can now take the clamp and get it started, and that'll help take some of the weight off of the sensor. Now we can roll it up. Got it into our alignment dowel there. Don't fully tighten it yet. Tighten the sensor up. Okay. Can make the clamp tight. With our T20, put these screws back in. And just remember you got one long screw and one short screw. The short screw goes on the bottom on the right hand side. And the other side uses 2 long screws. Okay, now we can move over to the left side. So now to put this grip on, you could either blow it back on with the air, or a super easy way Just spray a little Windex in there and slide it on. Get it where you want it and just let it sit. It'll dry up and it'll be nice and solid. So now we can put this side back on, put our clamp in place, our 5mm Allen hex bit. So I like to make sure that the top portion is fully seated, and then just tighten down the bottom where it ends up. Now we have the gap on top. And we can put our switches back on. And both these screws are the same size screw. All together for the switch housing, you had 3 long ones and 1 short one. 2 long ones on this side and 1 long and 1 short on the other. So now we can put our rubber straps back on our wires. And then we can sit on the bike and fine-tune the positioning of the bars and the levers. And then you're done. You're done with that. So that's it for the tracker bar install on this 2023 Speedmaster. Thanks for watching.